Hi Aquarius, I'm EllaAradia and welcome to your April 2026 Psychic Tarot reading. This reading is for my Aquarius air signs where we'll be exploring the overall energies and themes for the month ahead, as well as taking a deeper dive into how these might be playing out for you in your life. This is a general reading, so it's going to resonate a little bit differently for all of you. But what I do find is there's always a shared theme that runs through the collective of all of you Aquarius signs. So it may show up in different areas of your life in slightly different ways, but the theme is always the same. So take what feels aligned to you and just leave the rest. And before we jump in, a big thank you to all of you who are supporting my channel by liking and subscribing. So if you enjoyed this reading and you haven't already done that, please do. It helps the channel out a lot. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and then you can get notified when the next videos are up. So Aquarius, let's jump in. So I always like to tune into the energies first, Aquarius, before I start pulling any cards. I'm a psychic channel, so I like to see what the universe shows me. So I'm already seeing somebody who looks like they're weighing up two choices. It could be a career choice. You may have two different job opportunities, or it might relate to a certain direction in your career. And for some of you, this is a relationship choice. And it's interesting because whenever I pick up my deck, like it's just a habit of mine, I always look at the bottom of the deck to see what card's on the bottom. And today it was the Lovers, which is all about a relationship choice or a choice that affects a relationship. And it's a kind of decision which there is an invitation to be true to you and make a choice that's truly aligned with your values and your truth. Because I see two people here, and I see one energy which feels, you know, very fiery, exciting, adventurous, passionate, but might lack perhaps the emotional depth. And another energy which feels a lot more kind of grounded and earthy, and somebody who, you know, really has the depths to go to deeper emotional levels, which can ultimately, you know, bring you that long-term fulfillment. But there's something about that person, they just don't feel as exciting as this other person. So it's almost like, you know, both energies feel like they're kind of lacking something. But I feel like that's maybe, you know, there's something deeper in there. That might be just the way that you're perceiving it right now. Because when I really feel into this, I feel like there is a need to really question the motivating energies under the decisions that you're making here. Because when I feel into, you know, whoever this person is that relates to, you know, these more, you know, kind of fiery, charismatic, spontaneous energies, I feel like, you know, this is someone who, you know, can give all of that, but maybe can't take things to that next level, that deeper level. And to me, they feel like they're part of an old pattern. So in many ways they're there, but in some way they're not perhaps emotionally available. So you're not getting that emotional support. You're not having love shown in the way that you need. And they feel like they're part of an old pattern. Whereas this other person, it feels like they have the ability to take you to new levels of growth. But of course, that's going to involve you stepping up and being vulnerable in some way. And that's going to involve growth on your side. And I always talk about how things relate back to childhood and how we create, you know, what feels familiar as a child. And, you know, that this person that's part of this old pattern, it's what you know, it's familiar. And, you know, there's a lot of great things that you might get out of that, but at the same time, it's not giving you that long-term, deeper emotional commitment or that love that you deep down inside really want. And it may feel familiar in some ways. There's kind of an uncertainty there. They're there, but they're at a distance, and that might feel familiar to, a dynamic in childhood where perhaps a parent, didn't show up in the way that you needed, or you didn't feel loved in the way that you needed. They may have been a little bit absent somehow. And that's when we form our definitions of love. And so we often recreate, what we know and what feels familiar. And I do feel it also plays a part in the kind of person that we are attracted to, because you have this other person here which, can hold that safe container, can go to those deeper depths, but doesn't feel as exciting. But when we heal, these old patterns and, the inner wounds that we carry, I feel it changes the kind of person that we feel attracted to. It changes something. And so I definitely feel like there's a big invitation here to really kind of look a little bit deeper around, what is that motivating energy in terms of, why you are making the choices that you make. Because I do feel like there's an invitation for something different here. And of course, for some of you, it might be neither of these choices. It might be something completely different. And it may even be something that hasn't become visible to you yet. There could be a third choice here. Your overall energies is the Ten of Wands. This often represents the ending of a chapter, one that maybe has been quite a challenging period for you. It's, the Ten of Wands is a challenging time, something that has, started to feel a bit heavy. It's often an energy of kind of carrying something, feeling obligated in some way, something that, you may have put a lot of time, energy and work into, but it's gotten heavy. And it's sometimes these things that, we feel like we're kind of carrying on our shoulders, responsibilities, burdens, things like that. But it's a 10, so it's representing the ending of, perhaps a difficult time. I feel like this relates into this old pattern that I'm talking about of, pouring in to a person or something. This could relate to career as well, investing, giving and giving and giving in the hopes of receiving something back, which is usually love or acknowledgement or recognition, whatever that is for you. But to the point where, there's not really much left in terms of, what you have to give. And it's something that starts to feel tiring and heavy. In your recent past, the Eight of Wands, sudden movement, change, a calling to take an action of some kind, a swift action. Sometimes this represents incoming messages, communication, whatever it is. It's a fast moving energy, and it's an energy which, there are no obstacles. If you look at the card, it's completely unhindered. And very often that's a green light from the universe to, take some kind of step, make some kind of choice here. With the current energies, we have the Seven of Wands. This is a card sometimes about, being a bit barriered or dealing with someone that's maybe a little bit barriered. But it's also a card of standing in your truth, regardless of, what might be going on around you. Even if there are, let's say, these energies of adversity, opposing forces, this is about you tapping into your truth and standing strongly in that. Your feelings towards your situation, the Page of Wands. So following your heart. Being open to I feel, really listening to your heart here and following your inspiration in this situation. In the challenge, we have the Lovers. So we've got the Lovers again. So I had that at the bottom of the deck before I started. A choice to be made here. And that's in the challenge. So there's a call to action with the Eight of Wands, you know, some kind of invitation to make a move, to step up. Let's just look at your hidden influence is the Ten of Swords. This might be the person that for some of you, I feel like the kind of the more fiery, charismatic type of person might be someone in your past here. That might be who you're dealing with. You know, the court cards usually represent, you know, a person in your life, sometimes yourself. And with the hidden influence here, we have an energy of betrayal. Because really, if I'm totally honest, when I feel into, you know, this fiery energy that I'm feeling, this Page of Wands, I feel like that there is a pattern of, you know, slightly toxic connections. You know, you might have very often come across somebody who is a little bit of a player, someone who's not very honest. And, you know, someone who sort of gives just enough to kind of keep you around, but they're not really, you know, wanting to be in a long-term, loyal, committed relationship here. And so, you know, there may have been, you know, some kind of betrayal here, which may have kind of really triggered, you know, this choice that you find yourself, you know, wanting to make right now. You know, it may be that for some of you, the universe has kind of brought somebody in, this new person that I'm seeing that's just kind of orbiting, to make it a little bit easier for you. Not that you should sort of jump from one person to the other. You know, it's always important to, you know, take things step by step and make sure you really process, you know, any emotions of, you know, anything that may have occurred. But it looks like, you know, there's been some kind of betrayal, because the Ten of Swords is sometimes something that you didn't see coming. It can sometimes represent feeling kind of stabbed in the back in some way. Now, this could have happened in the workplace. And it may well be for some of you that, yes, you know, where you were was, or where you are now, you know, it's somewhere that, you know, feels fun and exciting. You know, it's something that you love doing, but, you know, you may have been hoping for some kind of step up the ladder, and there may have been a betrayal of some sort, you know, that may have fallen through, or it may have been given to somebody else, or there was, you know, a lack of honesty around that for some reason. And, you know, it may have been something that you just didn't see coming, and it's put you in this point of choice here with the Lovers. And, you know, being in the challenge there, you know, it's almost like this may have happened very suddenly, and it's not really a choice that you're particularly, you know, wanting to make at the moment. But I do feel there's some kind of invitation here around, I feel like the universe is kind of giving you a little bit of a helping hand to perhaps, you know, break those old unhealthy patterns from the past of investing in something, somebody. Like I said at the beginning, you know, it can show up in different areas of your life. It could be a career that you've poured your heart into, you've invested a lot, and you may have had a great time doing that, but you have been doing that with a view to, you know, receiving something back, and there's been some kind of betrayal that's occurred here, and that hasn't happened. And the universe, I feel, has, you know, brought something else in as an invitation to you to perhaps make a different choice and break free of, you know, this pattern once and for all here. with your advice from the universe, the star, this is a card of healing, renewal. It's also a card of faith. And the star is always, a guiding light, just letting you know that, you are always being guided. We are always being guided by that higher intelligence, which is inside of us in our soul. We're being guided by the universe. And sometimes it's about, I feel, the star particularly, seeing the bigger picture and, understanding from a higher perspective that what is happening right now is happening for a reason. And it's some kind of renewal. There's some kind of new path that you're being given the invitation to walk, but it may involve stepping out of your comfort zone, moving away from anything that feels unhealthy, toxic. But it's going to involve, you not being afraid to be seen, a little bit like how the figure on the card is naked. This is about you, having the courage to be vulnerable enough to allow yourself to be seen for who you are, to express who you truly are. That who you are is enough and you're worthy and deserving of, that fulfillment, that love, that contentment, that commitment, or, whatever that is for you here. What lies in your outcome is the Page of Wands. And the Knight of Wands. So knights are always on a mission and they're always pursuing something. And I feel this is an invitation for you to really, really listen to your heart on this one. And like I said before, have a deeper look at, what is that motivational energy around, this choice that you need to make now. Because this is a card of following your inspiration, following your heart, going after what you truly want. But it may involve, letting go of something in the process, of somebody, an old version of yourself. But it is an invitation, especially with, this Eight of Wands here, around, taking some kind of action here. And making sure, that you absolutely do that from the heart with that Lover's card there. So Aquarius, I'm going to leave that there. If this reading resonated, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, no matter what comes through in a reading, moving forwards, always trust what feels right for you. So thanks so much for being here, and I wish you a great month ahead.